Holy smokes, you guys are in for a treat today, ladies and gentlemen. We have for you an insanely talented DP, Nik Pilecki. We are about to dive into the mind of Nik and really get to know the nitty-gritty of what it takes to get to the next level that he has gotten to. We're going to take a deeper look into the production that you're seeing right now. So I hope you guys have put aside the next 60 minutes for this episode, because this man has so much value to offer, not only as a technician, not only as a DP, but as a person and a human being. Somebody who has an incredible story from becoming a doctor to now becoming a full-time cinematographer. The charisma, the energy that oozes from this man is somebody you want to be around. So guys, this is why we're doing this. Our very first guest, Nik Pilecki. All right, today we have Nik Pilecki. Man, this is so exciting to have you here, because I've actually been, honestly, I've been stalking your page like, yo, you guys gotta check out this. Like,
I know, yeah.
Yo, Anthony, yo, this is the type of commercial we gotta make.
Yeah.
You know, like this is the look. And I've noticed you have like a very specific look, and we're gonna get into like dive deep into like your thinking behind all that kind of stuff. But let's start with Nik Pilecki. Who's Nik Pilecki, and as a human and as a DP?
Okay, yeah, I'm a DP from, I'm actually based in London, but I do most of my work, London, Ontario, but do most of my work in Toronto. And I would say 90% of my work is commercial focused, with the occasional music video or short film. And as a person, I'm a dad with 2 kids, and that helps balance things out. And I don't know, I love film and everything about it. I don't think there's a better job. I think we get to do make-believe at like the highest level. Yeah. Like the amount of detail you put into like what is seemingly the silliest thing and will stress you out in the day. Like how you'll do 6 takes on like, you're not putting the butter right through the mayonnaise, and you're just like the amount of detail. It's the best job in the world, because like you're not in front of the camera sweating. You get to go home and you're like, yeah, I did like that mayonnaise good today. That was good.
It's true, because sometimes we have to remember, like, our job can get stressful as DPs. Like,
for sure,
the pressure can really get to a lot of people, and I think sometimes you just have to sit back and remind yourself, wait, like, I'm making videos for a living, guys. Like, this is pretty freaking cool.
100%. Like, I think checking yourself is like, because in the moment, like, you feel like you're going to war. Like, you're chasing light.
So focused.
You're chatting with agency and client, trying to make sure everybody's needs are met, while still being like, me and the director's vision is being met. It's like it's real chaos, and that's where like I think experience comes into play, because like it's one thing to know everything before the game, but then once you're actually on the set, like it is unbelievable how quickly you'll throw things out, and you'll be like, oh man, I hopped the 180 line, like I just wasn't even thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much going on. How did you get started? Like, did you always want to be a filmmaker as a kid?
No, so I was a real science nerd when I was young, and I actually became a doctor. And
what kind of doctor?
Like a legit doctor?
Yeah, like
like a chiropractor,
an eye doctor.
Oh, okay.
So like in the ranking system, I don't even. But
that's kind of crazy.
So I became an optometrist, and I didn't pick up my first camera till I was 28. I was very old. I'm 36 now, to give some perspective.
Dude, I'm 36 right now. I didn't start till I was 30.
Okay, hey.
Yeah.
I don't hear this story often. I love it.
Yeah.
So I picked up a Canon T2i to like film music videos.
T3i.
Yeah, just as a like, hey, like I'm curious, like this looks fun, and had the T2i with a nifty 50. Saw the shallow depth of field, and I was like, honestly, I don't think anyone's ever shot anything as good as this leaf in my backyard.
It's always a leaf.
The way the wind was just, and I'm like, if I put the right music underneath this, guys, there's an Oscar with my name on it. And it just like everything spiraled from like, oh, I probably don't need the Canon 5D. Like, it's not that big of a step up. And then you're doing your comparative YouTube videos, and you're like, oh, it actually is pretty, like, Magic Lantern RAW, full frame, that's pretty great. So you buy a 5D, and then you're researching RAW video, and then
10 seconds.
They're like, what's this Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera? Like
the first one.
Well, because I'd only ever been, I only ever knew Henry's. So I thought all camera systems were Canon, Panasonic, Sony.
Yeah.
Like you don't know like if you're into cars,
Yeah.
you know Mercedes and BMW, but you don't know like Bugatti and like you don't know all these
Subaru
like
even.
yeah. So then like I remember I was on Vimeo one day and someone had made the Canon 5D. Someone put in the comments, they're like, "Man, this looks like an Ari Alexa." And I'm like, "What is an Ari Alexa?" Like, what is this trash camera they keep? They're comparing an Ari Alexa to a Canon 5D.
How dare they?
How dare they?
Yeah.
And then a quick Google, I was like, oh, like movies are shot on this. And it was just like I don't think that like to be a great cinematographer, which I'm not saying I am, I don't think it's like you're getting better. I think you're just constantly like weeding out the things you don't like.
You're discovering yourself.
You're discovering yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're finding your voice.
Yes.
And like gear is part of that journey, but another part of that journey is just project after project, communication with directors, gaffers, like everybody's informing your voice because a gaffer might do something that gives like a subtle leak or a hairlight and you're like, that really made that pop and I'm going to bank that.
Yeah.
And vice versa, they might do something like not have time to like black out one side of a room and you're like, that face needed more contrast. We should have done that. So it's like, it's just like people always ask like, how do I become good overnight? And it's like, well, you wouldn't say that to like someone who plays the violin or the guitar. Like I could teach you how to do a power chord, how to riff, but like until you sit down for 5 years,
You can learn 3-point lighting on YouTube.
yeah,
You know what I
it's just
mean?
like,
Like,
I don't think that's practical.
But
Like
it's
how
not.
you make things.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I don't even remember the last time I used a light on my fill. Like
Yeah,
usually
me
I'll
neither.
just
I'm the same way.
I'll just appease the client and I'll
Yeah.
bring in a bounce board and I'm like, okay, we good now?
Oh man, I'm exactly
and then they're
the
like,
same way.
yes, thank you. And
Yeah.
the gaffer will be looking, he's like, I don't think that did anything. And
I
I'm like,
think-
it did not. It did not. But and also back it up so we ensure that it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'm not a bounce for fill guy. I'm sorry, I'm not a light source for fill guy. You know, bounce if anything. But I'm big on neg, and I think that's probably why I attracted to your work because I'm like I see the techniques being used and I love it. But what would you say then is a good cinematographer? Because you said you're not a good cinematographer. We can argue that, but you know, what would you qualify as like a good cinematographer?
I know, like I love Chase Irving, like Deacon's obviously
legend. Yeah,
like even Steve Annis. I mean, I'm saying even Steve Annis is great, but like people that have like similar sensibilities to me, who I've heard talk on podcasts, and they're very similar to like I just do what I do, and I'm like I understand what they mean. Like I think it's very difficult to see your own images or you see the flaws a lot of time where someone else is like, because someone will message you and be like, man, this image is perfect, and you're like, no, like I could show you perfect in my Instagram feed. I could show you the stuff that makes me cry at night, like where I know I'll never be that good.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand that, like, you know, best is relative. There is no best cinematographer.
You can't compare cinematography,
like,
I don't think.
I used to play music, so a lot of times someone's like, who's the best guitarist? I'm like, well, there's Santana. Like what genre do you play? Because if I see a cinematographer who shot something like crazy cool thing, I'll be like, man, I wish I shot that. But it's also not my style. So like, could I have shot that?
Yeah.
And someone else might be looking at my work being like, oh, I can't believe, I wish I could have shot that mayonnaise commercial.
Right,
And it's like, so I think as long as you're making a living and making things you're proud of, like that is the best cinematographer you could be.
I've always said, you know, like you don't grow as an artist, you grow as a human, right? And I think cinematography being such a creative aspect, like there's that spirituality kind of connected to it, and just being able to be authentic with yourself that then translates into your work, which then translates into the relationships that you have on set. Because cinematography is more than just how can I make the prettiest thing?
Oh,
right.
So I made like a pie chart on how much I think image making is cinematography.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I was trying to figure out, you know, science brain. So like I went over 6 months. I'm like, how much of my day is put to communication? How much is put to, I don't know, like post-production? How much is put? And it was 20% goes to image making. The rest of it goes with communicating with directors, communicating with gaffer. Like it's a lot of like, you want to be a strong DP, be a strong communicator.
That's the biggest chunk in the pie chart, you would say?
100%.
Yeah.
Because after a
1000%.
certain point, like you're just reassuring clients, it's you explaining a vision to a team of lighting people who like, you can't be running over and like changing the angle on lights at a certain point. Like you're too busy.
Yeah.
And like directors, they don't want to have to like say a bunch of things to you. They want to be like, just like the references. And I'm like, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Because they got 80 million different things on like what to focus on the package, what to not like. It's just like, it gets very busy. So if you can't convey your ideas through another person, like that'll be your biggest roadblock, I think, to leveling up.
What would you say is the biggest challenge for you right now? Are you facing any roadblocks currently as a DP? What do you feel like you want to improve on?
I mean, always leveling up. Like I feel like there's always a next milestone.
Yeah.
And when you hit it, you don't know when you've hit a milestone. That's the weirdest part about life is that like
It's always in hindsight.
kind of like if you're like one day I'll get to shoot a car commercial and then you do and you're like I should be shooting 6 car commercials.
Yeah.
So like you might register that you hit the milestone, but like it doesn't feel like a check mark. It's like
You're just in it. You're like
you're in it and then you've already made the next milestone
like 2
while
months
you're
out,
in it.
oh, like I did that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think another sickness in like filmmaking is like we're always excited for the next thing, but it's like the thing you're making currently is the thing that brings you work. Like, so you should treat, so one of my mantras is like every job is the most important job.
Yeah.
Like, even if I think it's not, like, you never know who's going to have eyes on it. And that people that have eyes on things aren't going to have the same sensibilities as you.
Right.
So
They're not going to be able to pick apart the little things that.
So not to keep crapping on mayonnaise commercials, but like, I don't know if a producer at another production company sees that and they're like, I've loved this.
Yeah.
Like, we have this like, you know, funky athletics ad that like we think you'd be great for. And you're like, really? You saw this ad and that brought you in? You like to think it's the cool spots that bring people in, but not always. Sometimes it's a grocery store commercial or
what's
bank.
practical to them and how they
Kind
interpret
of.
it, right?
And then when they see your work, you can kind of push them to your sensibilities.
Yeah.
But like, if you think only your coolest work is bringing in like future jobs, I just haven't found that to be the truth.
Right. So do you think it's important to diversify your work, or do you think it's more important to niche down in something?
I think right now I'm pretty diversified. Like I will take on anything that I think has potential, but you know, as you go further into your career, I can only, you know, project. You see people go more into niches, like you're the beauty guy, you're the lifestyle guy, athletics, cars, food. I suck at beauty. I'm terrible at it.
Really?
Done it twice, and I just like, it's not that I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's that like it doesn't come naturally. Like if you relate it back to music,
Right.
like you can be good at something, but someone's like, hey, can you play jazz? And you're like, I can't.
Yeah.
Like I just don't like.
I see what you're saying.
If I sat down, like just the way the lighting ratios are, I like really spontaneous human moments, and beauty's not that to me. It's very like
that's like food to me, like product tabletop stuff.
The only time I do food is when it's like in reference to like a like there have to be people around the food, and I'll do food shots. But if it was like we're doing 30 seconds of food shots, I'd be like, I'm not.
It's kind of like what you
like
do.
I'm not good enough at food stuff to like
exactly.
get you to like
because it's
to shoot on
different,
a Phantom
different tools, different
team.
team, different techniques, but like what you did with like Corona, like you're not going to do the bottle coming in on a bolt arm and do all
it's
kinds
got
of
to
fancy
be in
macros.
relation to like I'll do product
Yeah.
shots, but they're always like they're never my main.
They're not your
bread and butter, and that's okay. Like knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're less strong at, let's say.
Yeah,
It's important.
Is there a niche that you haven't fully dived into that you want to?
Oh, car stuff for
Car
sure.
stuff. Have you done any car stuff?
Yeah, I got a taste of it last week. It's a
Okay.
lot of fun.
That's right.
Just a different mindset. Like I'm so used to like controlling lighting with, you know, big modifiers, lamps, and then cars is a lot of like instinct, like picking your angle and
camera
movement,
Big time.
varying up your angles. Like I'm always thinking of like the edit a lot of times.
Yeah.
I'm not an editor by any means, but like, you know, switching up your angles, like, you know, nothing drives me more wild. Well, like when you see a wide shot and then the coverage to, let's say, a medium or close up is down the same line. And I'm like, I just know how those cut together.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should be off like 20 degrees on your axis. Like it's going to like your editor's going to love you more. Cause then you're like, it doesn't look like you're punching in on footage. Like it's a different
shot and therefore better video overall.
And it didn't take any more time than like taking one step to the right on your easy rig.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are little things that you only pick up by making the mistake.
Right.
And seeing the edit back and you're like, I should have switched up the angle or like done a top down shot. Like, because then you don't have to worry about continuity as much.
Right.
Like
exactly.
And it's like continuity is like, I don't care about continuity at all.
It's not really your job either, but yeah.
Well, I just see
Yeah, a little
editors
bit,
flip
but-
shots all the time
Yeah.
to like eye trace and
Right.
eye mat, and I'm just like, no. The idea is like make every shot awesome, and it'll cut together.
Yeah.
But once again, I have a very commercial mindset. If I was more narrative, like I'd probably
Narrative's different mindset.
Yeah.
Totally different. But do you have like a approach in terms of pre-production, in terms of prep? Because everyone has a little bit different, works a little bit differently. What's your prep routine, if you call it that? And how do you handle prep to post-production?
Sure. So my prep as of like the last year has been, I get a deck or a treatment, I read through it. I'm not even looking at like the specific shots that are there quite yet. Whatever the category of commercials or whatever category I think it is, I pop over to Vimeo and like, okay, so this is a pretty good hack that I don't know if anyone else does, but I type in the genre and I type in colorist after it. Because my thinking is, if you type in something like hockey, Ari,
Right.
you ever seen a big commercial tag Ari?
Yeah.
No,
Right.
they don't tell you what it's shot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But only like the biggest stuff gets sent through like Company 3 and color houses.
Right.
So only that, like if you have something you're really proud of, you're going to send it off to Alter Ego. You're going to send it off to Company 3. You're going to send it off to like, I don't know, Studio Feather. Pick your post house.
Yeah.
But like, so you're going to weed out all the smaller mini doc stuff, all the like 4-person crew, like where everyone puts on every hat.
Because they're not affording that. They can't afford it. Yeah.
So if you type in hockey colorist, now you're down to like 80 results. And then you're just looking at the thumbnails with like which thumbnails grab.
It's a really good hack.
Yeah. And then I'll download like 10 videos,
Yeah.
take them into Premiere, chop them up for like, hey, that's a cool angle. Never would have thought of that. That's in my head now. Am I going to use it? I don't know, but it's sitting in my brain if I get stumped on set or if I'm going through the boards and I'm like, okay, see this shot here? Like if we got a jib or a crane and we put it up in the rafters, like I think that would work here. Yeah. Or attach a camera to a hockey stick. Like that's a cool perspective.
Interesting.
So, and I like, it takes like 4 to 6 hours every single time, but it just like, and it's something that like you can present to a director and be like, hey, any of this inspiration ringing with you?
Right.
Because even if one shot is like, I love this, it's like one shot in a 10-shot ad, like you just upped your game 10%.
That's true.
If there was any other piece of equipment that could up your game 10%, we would all buy it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, are you doing that prep work before you've even landed the job, or once you're already locked in?
I would say most of the time, like I'm pretty locked in.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it's like for cinematographers larger than me, but like usually if a director has contacted me, they've already won the bid. Occasionally they'll be like, I'm up for this. Can I put your name in for it? But like I've just found like there's not a lot of prep expected for the ones that aren't quite landed yet.
Yeah.
But if a director was like, hey, I'd love to put together a mood board to win this job, then
Okay.
100% I'm game on, because you're trying to like, it's so much easier to maintain a relationship than it is like to work with a new director every time.
Yeah.
Like you have that shorthand, like they like coming to you. It's kind of like with crew, like I have a list of first ACs I like to use.
Yeah.
When 3 of them are booked, I start sweating because I'm like, oh God, I gotta send some messages out and find some people.
Go on some Facebook groups. Yeah.
It's much easier to be like, hey, you free on the 17th? And they're like, yeah, I'm good. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, book that in.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So like when you let's go back to like when you first started. You said you were 28 years old when you first picked up a camera.
T2I.
And like I can relate to that. Like I said, it's just crazy like that we share similarities in that aspect. What did you do in the beginning, especially to market yourself as like a cinematographer? Let the world know that you existed.
I didn't even know what a cinematographer was. Like,
really?
Well, I'm from London, so like everyone just kind of had a production company. Oh, we're on video. A production company. It's just one person naming yourself bigger than you are to get clients.
True.
So mine was Hungry Boy Productions. Stupid name. To this day, it haunts me. But then one day someone wrote on a video, really good cinematography on Vimeo. And I was like, what's that? So I had to Google cinematography.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And I was like 31 when I Googled cinematography.
Oh, wow.
You didn't learn that in optometry school, I guess.
Holy crap.
No, so it was like, okay. And then like, you would get other local directors being like, hey, I just got this like hospital job and like I really like how you shoot things. Would you want to like come out and take a stab? And I would be like, oh, like, because at first you view each other as competition, but then it's like if you lose that mindset of like, no, we're not competition, like a rising tide lifts all ships. So it's like if you have a great client and a great creative and I can lend great visuals and help sequence it, and then we can go find a great editor and someone who does great sound design, like then you can start banking projects. And then as soon as you have great projects, it's not the same as having stills on Instagram.
Right.
It's it's like you have something that a production company can be like, we love this spot. And I'd be like, okay, let's chat. What do you love about this spot? Is it the pacing, the coverage, the lighting? Like you can now say like, what do you love about this? So I can take it forward to your project.
Yeah, that is very valuable information, especially when, you know, to touch on the whole competition thing, because obviously like some of the things that I hear sometimes is people say there's a lot of ego in this industry. And how do you like navigate between, you know, competition and community, right?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think we all have a bit of an ego. I think the important thing, like I definitely get jealous. It's just important to check those attitudes as soon as they come in, because there's so much work out there that like someone else landing a job isn't the absence of me landing a job.
Yeah, don't take it personally.
No.
Like it was,
And
I
also,
should have been me type of thing.
Don't take it personally if a director works with a different DP too.
Exactly.
It's not like, because like you'll work with different directors. Like I don't know. It's important to have a healthy relationship with people, because at the end of the day, like I would say images are part of you getting work, but the other part is how you present yourself to a client, director, agency, and they're like, hey, we really like Nick. We should get him back out on Dub Grills. And you're like, and you're like, I would love to shoot Dub Grills.
Is there
And you're
mayonnaise
like,
in that?
and they're like, so it's a summer commercial and we're shooting in December. I'm like, outside? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, interesting. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
In Canada or somewhere else?
Yeah. But like relationships are huge. Like if a director likes you, there's always going to be someone who might be technically better at lighting or the cooler kid on the block. But if you work well with a director,
You'll probably get the job.
You probably get the job.
Exactly.
Like when I hire a gaffer, they might not be, they're the best gaffer for me. Like we communicate really well. They get my vision quickly. Like, do they know everything? I don't know, but they know what I like and we make good stuff together.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's important. I think like a lot of times some, you know, people might be intimidated because they'll see your work and then they'll see my work and they'll see other people's work and they'll be like, oh man, like this is the competition I have to face. And the attitude I've always preached is connect with people. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. Connect with people, because we are all multifaceted. You know what I mean? Like he's not a gaffer, but he's gaffed for me before. You know what I mean? Like like I'm a DP, but like I've gaffed, I've keyed, I've gripped, I've PA'd even. Like it doesn't, like you never know what you can create, what kind of relationship you can create with each other.
Especially with working with other people, like you get to see how other DPs work.
And I think that's valuable.
You can take away what you like,
Exactly.
and then you can also take away what you don't like.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about just images. I'm being like, if you're like, I don't like how the DP's talking to the crew. I don't like how like a piece of equipment broke and they shut down on set. Like I'm a very like power through the pain. Like if we had a Steadicam day and the Steadicam broke, I would just rock hand. I would be like, no, this is the new plan. Like, guys, the main job is to make something entertaining.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're just switching the plan up. It's not the end of the world. Like this is the new plan. Like if a shot isn't working, abandon it. Find something cool. Like they're commercial. Once again, I'm a commercial DP. So like make cool stuff.
Yeah.
Shake it up.
It's true.
Like,
That's a very good fact.
Yeah. Because you'll find like you'll fall on your face every once in a while, but like you'll find interesting things along the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, and directors love seeing you when you overcome. They don't like when you show up and the lighting looks like how it looked out there and you just pointed the camera, because they know you had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
They like when it's raining outside.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, what are we going to do? And you're like, I got an idea.
Yeah. It's like perception. It's the same way with clients too. Like clients is the same thing, perception.
If the final product turns out amazing, but the client did not have a good experience with you, they won't want to hire you again.
Exactly.
Because they're not noticing maybe that 10 to 20% difference in image quality, but they'll remember like how enjoyable their experience was with you.
Yeah. And we touched on gear a little bit right before we started hitting recording. You're talking about making things with what you have. So I guess you kind of answered the question, but let's talk a little bit on that. Is gear important?
I mean, gear's important in that you need some of it to get something done. What the gear is, like, I love working with limitations.
Right.
So if someone's like, we have a 600D, 2 tube lights, you know, a couple of V flats, I'd be like, okay, this is the coverage I can tell you we can do with those resources.
Yeah.
If you're asking for like this big giant wide, I would probably say,
Don't worry about that. Let's keep on going. We are in a storage unit, so it's going to happen.
if you're looking for this like big wide, it's
Yeah.
like, well, we don't have the budget for that. So like, I don't like shooting things that look cheap. So I would go to the director and be like, listen, I know you want this shot.
Yeah.
It's going to look like garbage.
Yeah.
Can
Right.
we make this a medium? Can we like find a way? Because like, I want it to look like no one can tell the budget.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Like,
that.
and usually it always comes down to like being there at the right time.
Yeah.
Or moving the whole system in a bit so that your 8x8s count for more, because you're not always going to have 12s or 20s. Like it's like little choices like that like they don't make a huge difference in the like I don't think people, you can tell what, like I can tell the hacks, but like
Yes.
the sentiment is the same in the ad you're
Yes.
creating, and you haven't cheapened any shots.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to take every little bit of advantage you can to add the motive intention that you want.
Yeah.
Even if people don't realize how much of a difference, that light you added made.
Yeah.
But in the overall picture,
I
they
want
might
to
not realize.
feel cohesive. Like
Yes, cohesiveness. Yeah.
it's always unfortunate when you see an ad where like 3 of the shots are like gorgeous, but then 70% of it is like, that doesn't match. That doesn't match. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't shoot for a reel because I don't even have a reel. Like
You don't have a reel.
Nah, I never.
Wow, I
I'm
didn't
never
realize
gonna
that.
cut one. Like it's just not my.
Interesting.
I just wouldn't know. I hate all the shots, so my reel would just be a black color mat for 2 minutes.
Wow, I didn't have a reel until the pandemic, I think.
Yeah, I just
Like, I
there are definitely hacks to a reel that are like they're a much needed thing, but like my focus has always been like finish the project in its entirety with no as little sore spots as possible. So like another thing that I found like really expedited the career, I guess, is like after every shoot, I would pull every shot into Resolve. I would grade it. I would do my own little edit. And I wouldn't just grade up the 3 shots that I thought were the bangers.
Yeah.
I would grade up the bad ones too, and be like, can this fit with a grade, or do I gotta like don't just look at like the beach muscles. Like look at your terry folds sometime. You're like, those are sore. Like we should work on those.
That's such familiar. Like that's exactly what I do. I do the same thing. I get that all the
important.
time. Like I'll bring it home and I grade it, and I grade everything though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Because I got to see what the bad ones
Like
were.
start with your LUT,
Yeah.
see how far off you were, because
Exactly.
like ambient lighting, like it's not always.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not always as scientific as you think it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then like also like if and it depends how busy you are, but if you don't have eyes on your footage at the end of the day, it could be run through a post-production. It could go through like let's say it didn't turn out how you expected. You really don't know if it was you or someone else that got it there. Whereas if you grade up half the shots and you're like, I know the potential in this.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, if you're like, this shot is not good, and you see the final cut and it matches, you're like, who's the colorist on that?
Yeah.
That worked that shot.
Yeah.
That's smart, because then you can actually like be self-aware of the work and like what went wrong, what you can improve on.
Also, which parts are VFX? Like, I remember the first time I had a sky replacement done in a shot, and I was just like, whoa. Like, this opens up a whole new way of me thinking.
Yeah.
Because I know, depending on the camera movement, what is capable, where I'm not like if the sky is great over there, but I love the composition of this shot, I'm like, well, I can't put a house over here, but I know that if it's just a little handheld movement, that's an easy 2-second replacement.
Huh. Interesting. So how did you get let's talk about that experience, because VFX is something that me personally haven't much experience in. So I'm curious as to like, how did you learn that? Was it the fact that it's VFX supervisors on set, or you?
Not usually
did it
usually
yourself?
it's super talented colorists
Interesting.
that like can just do things so like things that would take me 12 hours. They're just like boop boop, and I'm like,
So you just watch them do it, and you're like,
I just watch them do
oh,
it.
you can
Like
do
magic.
that.
Yeah,
Really? Wow.
100%.
Interesting.
And you're just like, wow. So it's like ideally you want to capture it on the camera, but like much like having a base knowledge of grading.
Yeah.
If someone's like, hey, can we flag off this wall? I'm like, there's no people there.
Power
Like,
window.
just do a gradient.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Like, whereas if someone's like, the light's a little harsh on their face, I'm like, we should take care of that.
Yeah, you can't fix that in post.
Can't fix that in
exactly.
post.
Yeah.
So like that's good knowledge to have to
Yeah.
keep your shoots moving. You're like, no, that is an easy fix in a grade. And then other times if they're like, we just need to roll, you're like, no, we just deep breath. We need 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This part is not fixable. Like we planned for 3 months. I know it's a long day, but we need like,
Yeah.
and like if you produce enough work that they're happy with, they will take your recommendations because like you're not going to win every battle.
Of course.
So when you speak up and are like, hey, we should take a beat on this one, it means more than if you're just like, I always have to have my way all the time.
Always have to be perfection. And
Yeah.
every little thing. Yeah, exactly.
No, sometimes
Pick
a
your
shot
battles.
is good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry for anyone that thought that everyone has to be a masterpiece. Sometimes shots are good enough.
No, but that's a fact because that's just the production world, man.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, there's so many factors that play into it, right? Like it's not just you. You're not the only one on set, right? And there's other factors.
One small piece,
You're one
of
piece,
like,
exactly.
I want the actors to do a great job. I want the director to do a great job. I want art to do an unbelievable job because then I don't have to work that hard.
Art's like your best
And
friend.
then-
yeah, art's like your best friend.
Like you ever just shown up and the set looks great and you're like, just put a big light out the window. Anything else? Haze.
the approach is exactly how we approach it. We go into
that's
night
the
set, like
thing.
shoot
Yeah.
a light out there and haze it up.
And then someone will ask me what lenses and camera I shot it on. I'll be like, oh, you silly boob. Like you, it could have been a pocket 6K with a nifty 50 or
Right.
it could have been
And you
the
won't know.
35 with like Cooks and it probably wouldn't look crazy different.
But let's talk about gear. Are you a gear nerd? Like, do you actually have a very
No.
specific, meticulous way of choosing your
I like
lens?
categories of gears.
I see.
Okay.
So like when I'm picking lenses,
Yeah.
I like focal lengths. How fast are they? That's how I'm
That's
thinking.
simple. That's simple.
That's
You don't look at character, all that kind of stuff.
Nah, I don't care. I don't care. And that's gonna
love
be
it.
blasphemy in my
That's
world.
how I love it.
If I'm gonna be honest, they all kind of look the same to me. Like in a cut,
Marginal.
like if you have to pause and look at the background and tell me it's more painterly, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just like, how much money of your budget are you willing to blow on that versus like, a Sigma Cine and a filtration in front of
Right.
it? Like if you're telling me like, and this is controversial, I know, but if you're like,
That's funny,
if you're
though.
like,
It is funny.
if you're like, I have 3 primes, let's say you
Yeah.
have an 18, a 25, 35, 50, 80, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have an 18 to 35 on there. If I get twice as much coverage with my 18 to 35
Yeah.
and it makes the edit better, who's to say that doesn't make you a better DP? Because that's part of the image is
Fair.
your coverage, how quick you can get the moments.
Yes.
Like my general workflow on set is it's like 45 minutes set up the shot, and then it's like you have 7 minutes to get all your coverage.
Wow.
It's like I'm a big like everyone's waiting and sweating. They're like, Nick, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
I'm like, just we're lighting the scene.
Yeah.
Like light the space, and then we're gonna walk in with a bounce. And then because I like my actors to be
Freedom for them just to.
not freedom,
But-
but like I like them to be hot on set. So
I
like
see.
they do their wides, they work out the kinks so that the last 2 takes of the wide feel good, and then there's no downtime between going to the close-ups. So they still have all the
going.
actions
So efficient.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, efficient workflow.
Efficient.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of
Like
like
flow state almost for them.
yeah.
Right.
Because
But-
you can just get through it, everybody's happy, and then agency and like production are like, whoa, I can't believe we just got that whole
So-
scene in 7 minutes. And you're like,
yeah.
4 shots when we lit the scene? Yeah, pretty doable.
So you're not the type to be like, okay, we're going in for the close-ups. Let's bring in everything and
I
let's.
might move things in, but
Right.
it has to be under 60 seconds.
Interesting.
Like it's got to be quick.
Wow.
So it usually turns into like, excuse me, let's pop in with like, bounce and a V flat. Like let's do what we can, come in with a
Right.
tube. But
Yeah.
like I like quick because the days always catch up to you.
All the time.
And I
yeah.
never like when the last scene is the one that's like, man, this scene doesn't look good.
And we gotta rush
it's
it.
like that's 20% of your ad. That's
Right.
gonna be the sore spot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting approach.
And does it take time to get to that point of like understanding what you need on set? Like how long it's going to
Sure.
take?
Yeah, and I don't have a hack for that. That's just like
it's
how you
experience.
like images, what type of like firing power gear you like, crew. Like you just like read boards and you're like, okay, interior kitchen scene, like gaffer 2 grips. That's
Yeah.
good. Like I don't need, 20 people for this.
Yeah.
But if they're like outside parking lot tracking shot from the door of Walmart to the middle of the parking lot, I'm like, okay,
Now you need
I
your
have to
team.
make some calls and figure out what we need. Like that one's out of my scope.
Yeah, right. So let's go. I'm going to touch back on the lens choice and the camera choice because there's got to be
Which, by the way,
some kind of extent.
Like you guys are all right. Like
Right.
that's like lenses matter. I'm saying I don't see it like how other like I see I see aspect ratios more. I see anamorphic versus spherical.
That's a big change. Yeah.
Well, it's a big change,
it's a
but
big-
like I like when my moves mean big things.
Right.
Like I like switching from like a 24 mil to 11 mil because I can run in as fast as I can.
Right.
Like to me, that's a bigger effective change.
I see.
And I like that.
But what about things like sharpness? Like you're going to go very
Man,
clinical.
dude,
You don't give a shit
I-
about.
half my shots, I think, are just like finding focus.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
Interesting.
whenever I'm communicating with an AC, it's like a big thing is I like jam time where it's like I'm gonna go in and rock on the easy rig and like just float with me, and we'll like find the moment.
Wow.
Like I don't like a lot of like I'll prep with like dollies and some things like if it's not working.
Yeah.
But like if focus floats in and out, I'm okay with that.
It's part of.
It's part of
Why
my
you went
style.
handheld.
It's
Yeah.
part of like the giving the actor the freedom. It just like it has a fluidity to it that like if you know what you're editing for, like if you're looking for 1 to 2 seconds at a time
Yeah.
and you run 4 takes,
Yeah.
you'll get it.
You'll find it. Yeah.
You'll find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's the commercial world. It's kind of different from the narrative stuff.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, once
Narrative
again,
is totally different. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
commercial guy.
Commercial. Exactly. I want to talk a little bit about pricing because I know that's one of the biggest probably challenges for most people who start out.
Yeah.
How do I price myself? Like what kind of advice, how did you price yourself and what kind of advice can you give on that?
I don't think I ever priced myself. I think I just like if I looked at a job and it was an opportunity, I undersold myself like crazy to get the job,
Yeah.
and then over delivered 4 times what they thought they were getting. So like if at the and I'm just throwing out numbers for the sake of numbers, but like if someone's like, hey, we got this job for but and we got $1,000 for you and your camera, you know, we'll say that's below day rate,
Right.
but director's good, creative's good, and it opens the door to like, hey, this person could hire me 12 times a year. And like, if I crush it on this, then I can come back to them and be like, hey, listen, that last one was more of like a favor rate. I loved working with you. I would love to continue it. This is more where I'm used to sitting.
I see.
And it's like, you're really only worth like what people are willing to pay. Just because you think you can do the same job as somebody else does not dictate your day rate.
Yeah, not at all.
You have to have the proof on your portfolio that you have accomplished this.
Yeah.
Like I can't look at a Porsche commercial and be like, I could do that. I could do that like Jared Fadal. Give me $7K a day.
Yeah.
Because they would be like, okay, show us all your car stuff. I'd be like, well, I mean, I've seen YouTube videos, guys, and it does not seem that difficult.
Can we touch on a little bit of like the journey from T2I to where you are now? Like, what was the steps to get to those connections, those directors, those agency connections, all that stuff?
It didn't happen overnight. Like it's a bunch of micro connections
Yeah.
and like leveling up projects, and like someone outside of your circle will catch whiff of something. They'll be like, hey, I really like that firefighting spot. Like, would you like to do that for a university? I'd be like, I would love to do that for a university. And then someone would see the university spot and they'd be like, hey, that was pretty good. Would you like?
Yeah. Just
So-
like a
It's a lot of like random connections. So it's like you can be talented, you can be good, and there's still like a certain amount of luck, just who sees your stuff. And that's the unfortunate part is that like, I don't think that like sending your stuff out to do it. I think it falls on deaf ears a lot of times.
Right.
Like these crazy busy people.
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
it comes off a little bit desperate too.
I don't even think that. Like, I think there's a lot of great people out there that should be working together. I just think that people are so busy nowadays.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
people will send me projects to critique, and the first thing I say is like, you don't want my critique. Like, because like, I don't know what you were battling that day. I don't know how much time you had. I don't know what gear you
So
had
many
access
elements,
to.
yeah.
And also, any advice I'm going to give you is just what I would do.
Yes.
And you don't want to be like me. You want to be like you, because that's the most hireable trait you can have. Is if someone's like, oh, like, well, Nick's X, but Brian's X. And it's like, yeah, but you wanted my image. So like, there's no negotiation here. Like,
yeah. I love that because I've been always saying that.
Yeah.
Like you got to be you. At the end of the day, if you decide that, you know, everyone's like, oh, but everybody uses a Dana dolly or everyone uses Steadicam.
they might not use it how you use it.
If you're a shoulder rig guy, be a shoulder rig guy.
Yeah.
Do nothing. This is a creative aspect. This is freedom for you to express who you are. So I think that's amazing advice.
No, I think it is a very important thing because also, if you find your voice, it's also the thing you're going to default to, even after you've been given all the references and like, hey, we're going for this look today, and you're like, and then you set up your shot, and you're like, just looks like my shot.
Did you ever think about finding your voice, or like what my stuff, like when you started up, you didn't.
You
really
don't think about it. Like, I don't think that's something that you can manufacture, unfortunately.
You just kept creating.
I think it's like it's just your taste. That would be like asking someone like, how do you know you like steak? And you'd be like, you didn't try to like steak. It's, you know, it's your
just
taste.
like it. Right.
So like you do images after image, and you're getting closer to this thing in your head that you never really get to fully, but you get closer every time.
Yeah.
And that's what they're hiring for, is like that image in your head that like doesn't quite exist yet.
right.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit about your Medical Hall of Fame video. I think that was freaking fantastic. And I was going to ask you, I was going to be like, hey, it's very interesting. It seemed like you were really intentional with the filtration that you use, because you got this really soft look, but then, you know, given today's conversation, I don't know if that was an active choice. Or you're like,
I believe it was a quarter HBM, a Hollywood Black Magic, but I think it's just because it like we shot the avioscope, so it was the only thing that threaded on. I don't know.
that is so funny. That's amazing. Because
Very
I didn't know.
nonchalant approach.
Yeah, because I look at it, I'm like, that commercial looks very intentional.
I mean, there's a lot of haze too.
Yeah.
We had art in every single, because a lot of the medical stuff was actually shot at a college. So it was like a teaching facility. So it's like turning that to look like an active hospital, because like
interesting.
getting that type of control in an active hospital now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's not possible at that budget level with that freedom. Like,
I see.
This isn't sick kids money. Like this is
You
like,
made it seem like it though.
Well,
Like by
I
the look of
appreciate
it. Yeah, by the look of it, I thought I was like, damn, this looks really nice. Like,
yeah, but there's there's big advantages to working at things at, let's say, a lower budget level, is they're giving you the creative freedom that like they can't step on your toes. So if you're like, this is the shot, and they're like, oh, well, like we're thinking it's a little too dark, and I'm like, well, I'm thinking you're not paying me enough to have a say in this.
What was the budget for for this? Like, can you talk about that?
I want to say it was like 15 to 17K.
Okay.
All in.
all in. Locations
so that's
and all that.
Actors, locations, getting crew
So it's not
down
that
to
huge,
London.
but it's
not. But like
good
some
enough.
of your viewers are going to be like, Nick, that's a dream budget. And for some people, they're going to be like, how did you do this for 17 grand? So it's a
you
matter of
produced it?
perspective. No.
Oh, okay. You were just deep.
No.
Okay. I thought you produced it for there for a second.
No,
Okay.
I don't produce anything. I think producing is the most headache-ridden job.
I hate it so much.
I like weighing in on options, but
Yes.
I don't like finding actors. Like I like to be like the, much similar to director, I like to be presented things and be like, yes, no.
Decisions.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because
So are you the type of DP, and in this particular case, I'm not sure if you were perhaps the one that goes, I want a specific light over there, put a Titan over there, put a bulb over
100%.
there. You're very hands on like that.
So I won't say what fixtures. I'll say I want a big soft source here. I'm thinking wrapped around. If it's getting too crunchy on the fill side, we're gonna need some type of hair light, maybe a tube, because like we just don't have anything to rig here.
Yeah.
So like I like to paint in broad strokes. I have an idea in my head.
Yeah.
If things go pear shaped, like hey, what? Like switch that tube to 4300 cal. Like I know what I want, but I also want to see what people are going to bring to the table. Because if they feel more invested in the project, they feel engaged as if it was their own project, which they're not. It takes this doesn't exist because Brandon and Nick shot it. This is because Brandon and Nick and a team of people came together. Like the talent was so good in this thing. If they sucked, like the sparkle in her eye on the going through the plexiglass.
I was going to ask you about that shot. That's a nice shot.
It's a nice shot, but she also sold it with her. Like if you put somebody else in there, you'd be like, Nick, that's a fine shot. And it's like, never underestimate how much a good performance. I think that's why narrative gets such a pass for like amazing cinematography. Because you have amazing performances
Talent
with
makes
these
such a big
long
difference.
speeches. And you're like, you're sucked into this world and you're like, was the lighting that great or was the whole thing great?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your lighting complemented greatness.
Because that
all it
plexiglass
is.
shot was exactly what I was going to bring up. I was like, I love the shot. I love how you created the depth with the texture on the glass, and then I just love the fact that she looked the right way, because she could easily been a bad talent who looked the other way.
I'm a big, like I tell talent. Like, like, hey.
Oh, so you direct them in that particular scenario, be like, please look that way.
director will say the action,
Yeah.
and then if I'm looking, I'm like, hey, if we could just angle your head 20 degrees to the light, like find your light, it'll be more flattering for you.
Yeah.
You always gotta like, I always present it in a way that's like it's gonna be better for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
If the key light's here and you're like, I'm like, okay, that's one way to just completely flatten off the scene. That's one approach. What if we tried this? And like a big juicy eye, like everything comes together.
Yeah.
And it's like someone will ask like, what fixture did you have here? What lenses did you use? And they're not listening to me go, and if we could just 20 degrees this way, makes a huge
lot of the
difference to
job.
me.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference. And it's just looking at your monitor being like,
Yeah.
hey, that was great. This next one, could we just try looking right into the light at the end? Like, and that's something that like I don't think you can teach because that's your instinct in zero time flat.
Yes.
That's not you reviewing the boards.
Yeah.
Like that's you looking and being like, I've been here before. I recognize what's not clicking.
Yeah.
And it's this.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the first scene, like the very first shot, you had this really nice wide. It's like the guy in the library and everything like that. Is that something like? How did you light that scene? What did you use? Was it your say in a lot of the art directions? I really liked the choice
That
of
shot was
green.
actually Brandon's call. Like I originally had the wide set up like dollying through the lamps, and I think that shot shows up later on in the ad. But he's like, "What if you prop it up on like this stacks of books case and we do a top down?" And I was like, we took the camera up there on a ladder, threw it on a sandbag, and I was like, "This looks great." So it's like you're the
So
people
like the location itself was already kind
looked
of
great.
done itself.
I still lit him with like an evoke through an 8x8.
And I noticed it was coming from the top.
Yeah.
Right, coming down.
So like there was motivation. I think we had a cutter doing a harder hit on the body.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, like I'm a big like augment what the world is already giving you. Don't try to fight it too much because like it'll look fake.
It'll be
Probably
a lot
don't have
harder
enough
work,
money.
Longer, exactly.
Yeah. So like throw the camera up where you think the best angle is.
Interesting.
Look at it. And like you just get better at predicting over time. So before you've even set your camera up, you walk into a room and you're like, okay, window's there. Camera's going to go on this corner as far back as we can go. Let's start setting up a key on this side. We'll figure out the angle but like you just kind of know like the patterns of what will produce the image that you like.
Yeah.
But like I always go from, and this is not rocket science. They've said this on the Wandering DP and every cinematographer podcast on planet Earth. Start with what you can't control.
True.
I can't change 30 tables in a library.
Yeah.
That's not
That's true.
like, so you got to position them somewhere. Now you've set your actor. So that's one less, like it's a domino effect of like what you thought was like a million different variables. You're closing off till you get down to like, we need a hair light.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's like as soon as you position your talent, well, now you can't put the camera anywhere. You have to see them. And then it's like as soon as you position your camera and your talent, well, the key light's going to come from the opposite side. So let's be rigging it up there.
Yeah.
How's that shadow side looking? Actually, I don't think it needs, I think that wall's far enough away. We're not getting any bounce back. It's good as it is. And like the funny thing about that shot is that I knew enough about VFX to know about the lamps. So the lamps didn't work.
No way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we ran down to our gaffer's car and we got 6 aperture bulbs. And I said, the aperture bulbs need to go in these 6 lamps to sell it. And then I'm going to get the VFX team to comp the rest of them in.
Wow. That's
So
interesting.
if you look at that opening shot, you'll see lamps and there will be pools of light underneath some of the lamps. But some of them will just be lit up fixtures and no pool of light. The juice is worth the squeeze there.
Yeah,
Like someone would have to pause and analyze it to be like, did they comp in like 25 lamps here?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just seeing the quick thing, you're like green, and you're just like, oh, this looks amazing. And honestly, it probably worked out in our favor because if I had all those lamps to talent's frame right, it probably would have flattened off the contrast on their face.
Yeah.
Because that would have bounced back on them. So it's like, but you know enough to be like, okay, we need some motivation so that we can like patch and replace these. So we can't come in with like 25 dark lamps because that's, you're not going to get someone to relight. But if we have 6 examples in the scene, they can kind of pick and choose.
Yeah.
And it's like also lock off the shot and we'll just do a digi zoom in post. Make it easier on them.
Yeah. And that only comes from experience, like having that insight when you're problem solving on set.
Yeah, and it sounds like cheating, but it's not.
But it's your
using
job.
you're using your tools to say like,
Yes.
this is what we can get away with. Because if the other option was run to Home Depot, get 25 matching bulbs that you may or may not have dimness control. Well, you tell me 2 PAs running to a store. What's that? 45 minutes minimum to come back. That's probably as much time as I had for the whole
And now
scene.
you got to light to those bulbs, so your lights could change, your levels can change, everything
And
changes.
that was a curveball that was thrown to us because, like, when we did the scout, all the lamps worked, but we shot on a Saturday, and someone flipped a switch, and the breaker that killed the power to those.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Holy.
like, I thought we were totally planned, and
Yeah.
then yeah, it was definitely a freak out moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure to people's face they're like, Nick doesn't look that angry. On the inside, I was like,
Fuming.
so like, actually, getting bulbs wouldn't have helped because
There was no power to it.
yes, had to use aperture bulbs.
There you go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did not have access to however many aperture bulbs that would have been needed to
Yeah.
light that up. So it was like, you just got to get creative and be like, I think we can get away with this. And then strategically placing which 6,
Yeah.
like don't put all 6 in one group. I'm
Of
like,
course, you want to
space
spread it
them
out. Exactly.
So you have little pools of light, and then we'll
Exactly.
just copy and paste.
Yeah.
when we need it.
How many days did it take for you to shoot that?
That was 1.5 days.
That was 1.5 days.
Yeah.
It seemed like you had a lot of locations.
Oh yeah. So
Like
it was
even
like
outdoors and
8
and
setups a
everything.
day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Holy crap.
How long were
Yeah.
the days?
12. I think the first day was 14. Next one was 8.
Okay.
So like longer days, but like
Interesting.
I like moving quick.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
I like when you get the shot, like you move on because some of those scenes are one shot, and
Yeah.
Brandon's a very good director for like that was the shot. Let's move on. It's like,
Interesting.
should we get an insert? No, that was the shot. It'll cut, and he's very good at being like, nope, this.
That's always good
leads
to have a
this.
director who knows what they
Decisive,
want.
intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's great at that. So
And all those in between transition shots, are those shots that you did?
yeah,
like,
so I've
on the
learned
spot?
over time, like me and a good editor friend of mine, Brian Chambers, who has since blown up in the industry, rightfully so. He's
Yeah.
my favorite editor. We kind of like, we didn't find this voice, but like we always loved these quick, intricate cuts. So we would reverse engineer like Jason Van Bruggen stuff and be like, are they finding these things like at the tail end of clips?
Yeah.
And then you watch enough of them, they're like, they're not. Like they're going out of their way to shoot these like silly little.
Because
like,
I could tell because
like
you
these
have moving
X-ray
lights
slims,
and like,
the moving lights
Yeah.
and microscopes and stuff.
Exactly.
So like now, like part of my shoot day is like I want to shoot textures for the next 45 minutes. Just give me one guy with like a cutter and a flop. Like I want to get these little things
Interesting.
that can help stitch scenes together. They help build a world.
Yeah.
Then like with sound design, and it's like, really, you're gonna spend 10 minutes on a shot that lives for 7
But
frames?
what a difference it makes.
And you're like, yeah, I am
Yeah,
gonna spend
100%.
yeah, because I know that it'll help bridge these two scenes together. Like, if you're not willing to put in the time for something that lives for 7 frames, well,
Yeah.
why take time for something that lives for 2 seconds? Like, what's your cutoff
Right.
where you start care? Like, are you only going to care on 30-second oneers then?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. I've just always been a fan of like those intricate little cuts on the right project. Obviously, that's not going to call for every project, but no, they were very intentional on this.
Interesting.
And Brandon and I knew going in, like the client definitely gives you a look as you're like, the two of you are like sliding x-rays in and out, buttons on and off, like, and like, I'm usually doing the sound design with my voice. So I'm like,
Oh yeah.
and they're looking at you like, what did you hire? and it's like, it looks ridiculous, but then you see like those little moments and you're like, oh,
It really stitches the whole thing together.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really love, I know it's out of like this is not what we do as DPs, but like the voiceover. Holy mother!
yeah.
Like, that
Oh
dude
God,
is
that dude was, you know how many,
the
you know how
best
many,
voice ever.
God, you know how many messages I got? They were like, who's this voice?
I
Like,
gotta know. Do you know the guy?
I know his name's in an email somewhere. I'd
Oh,
be happy
really?
to give it to you.
Oh my God!
But that was a
He's,
huge, because a good
So good.
voiceover makes everything epic too.
Yeah, he's got
Like,
that
and the
little raspy
appropriate
voice, you
voiceover,
know?
not something that just sounds quote unquote cinematic
Yeah,
or
yeah.
trailer like. Like I like voices that sound real.
Yeah.
Like I like when real people say voiceovers, and it's
Yeah.
not this like
Forced
this
thing.
very broadcasty thing, like here at the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame, and you're like, nah, bro. Like, I want you to say it like you just woke up.
Yeah. And that's what he
Like-
sounds
That's
like.
funny.
And
Yeah.
it's so good. I was like,
But that's the thing. Like Brandon picked an amazing voiceover artist, and like, but that's part of it. That's
Yeah.
part of what people are falling in love with. Like, even if you think it's the visuals, it's like, no, it's the actors, it's the art,
Everything.
it's the VO, it's the sound design,
Yeah.
it's the cut, it's the like. So like be involved in all that because it affects your, like, if the whole project looks great and someone falls in love with it, they'll think your images were perfect.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
But if like I would much rather have a project where like the whole thing turned out and I thought I did an okay job than a project where I thought I crushed it, but the edit, I'm like, I'm not falling in love with this.
I absolutely agree. And I think Wandering DP put it best in one of his videos was like, you know, don't beat yourself up for like not being able to reproduce the Joker.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You don't have the art department. You don't have the costume design. You don't have all this. You don't have all that. So yes, you're going to follow the same techniques, light it the same way. It's going to look like dog shit if you put it in a four white wall room.
100%.
So
if production ever presents you with an option of like, hey, we have $1,500 for lenses.
yeah,
I usually follow it up with like, who's doing makeup and who's doing art. They're like, oh, we don't really have anything budgeted for that. And I'm like, okay, well,
can you take some of that and put it there? 'Cause it'll
may I
help.
propose?
Yeah.
And then production loves when they do that because they don't understand it.
Yeah,
They're like, wait,
Yeah.
you're a DP who's giving away budget?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am.
Yeah.
And like, because I own lenses that you and I both don't notice the difference on.
Yeah.
But like, we'll notice if we can get somebody in here and do wallpaper on this entire room. And it's like, well, you think that's going to make a big difference? I do. And also, they're wearing a yellow shirt, so can we get blue wallpaper? It's like, why? It'll just pop.
It'll look nice.
It'll
Trust
look
me.
very intentional.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all you need to know.
Yeah. And I noticed you did that. Like they did really good job art design. Even the scene where the girl's sitting with her desk and you got the fairy lights going.
Yeah, so that's my kid's bedroom.
That's your kid's bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
Wow.
Got to stay in budget. Yeah, my
That's
wife was at
amazing.
work. The hazer flooded on the floor. Fire department got called. There's a photo of me somewhere, like,
Really?
like
How did you do
apologizing.
the
to-
movement? The camera on that.
So I have curved Dana Dolly track.
Interesting. I was like, this seemed like
So
a really
it
small
took me
space.
it
and I
took
was
me
like,
9 months to get from American Grip, but I was like, I was so tired of renting floor track because it takes way too long to set up. You need a huge truck to
need
get
a
it,
team,
and
yeah.
usually all I'm looking for is like 3 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't need the full circle.
Yeah.
I just need like a little bit of an orbit. So I bought Dana Dolly track. I can set it up in the same time as Dana Dolly's straight sticks.
Really?
Really?
So I've incorporated that move a lot now because I'm
Yeah.
like, to me, it adds an extra dimension to the the
It feels like a Steadicam.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it takes 0 time to set up. Like I can get those up with a team in like 90 seconds.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Dude, that's honestly an amazing like piece. Like I honestly like I saw that right away and I was like I watched it like 4 times in a row. Then I sent it to him. I was like, bro, you got to see this.
High level.
High level stuff. I want to talk a little bit more about mindset now. One thing that I think is a very common thing that people bring up all the time, burnout. Now I know, especially since you're so busy, like you've created quite a name for yourself. How do you deal with it? Have you dealt with it? And what's your experience with it?
100%. Like burnout's a real thing. You should never feel bad if you can't look at your emails for a day, if you can't even look at one of your images, because like there is an overload point where you're just like, I just got to walk away from this for 24 hours, 48 hours. Like I just need to like reset, because if you want to just live in the headspace that is film world, there is no escape from it.
Yeah.
It's not like I've worked another job. When I left being an optometrist, I didn't go home on Instagram and I'm like, man, what are other optometrists doing? But like when you're in the film world, even if you're like, I had a good day, and then you go see one of your buddies shot like an Acura and you're like, it's really good.
Defeated. Yeah.
So it's a real thing, and it is kind of like the mental health part of it's like our form of depression is burnout.
Yeah.
It's real. I don't know if I have a great way to combat it. I have kids, so they are something that force me to walk away from the film industry for periods of time.
Interesting.
And I can't be thinking about, lighting. Like I have to be with them.
You have to be
And
present.
I have to be present with them. Like that's the choice I made. That's how I want to be as a father. And it's a great, if I didn't have them, I think I would be a worse cinematographer, because I would just live in this. I would just be downward spiraling on
You've
Vimeo.
been kicking your own ass all the time in your own head.
Yeah. I mean, like, would I be technically better? Maybe, but you need those refreshers to like bring new perspectives to projects. I think it's important to get excited for things.
Yeah.
And if you're like just burnt out, you might have a great project, but if you're like, if you have that feeling of like, man, I just don't want to be here today, like that's not a great energy. Even if you're great at your job, that's not a good energy to bring to set. So I don't have any advice on how to combat that. But I think it's important to do things not film adjacent. Like have friends that aren't in the film. Have friends that you say the words Alexa 35 to, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking. And you're like, oh, okay, good, yeah.
Let's hang out.
It's important to have people that like, you want to have friends that are like, hey, it looks like you're doing some cool stuff. It's like, yeah. But like, let's chat about you first. Like, I don't need to talk about the film industry.
Yeah,
for
then you're
a second.
consumed by it again. Like,
Yep. And I think another thing that helps combat burnout is saying no every once in a while.
that's
Like,
tough.
It's
sometimes.
tough.
He has a lot of trouble doing that.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at your schedule and you're like, I got a day off in between these two jobs, I just got asked to shoot that day. Like, how detrimental is it going to be if I take this job? You think it's all going to be pluses, but no, you only have so much bandwidth to give every job.
Yeah.
Especially like where I'm at now, it's a lot of pre-production. It's a lot of mental thinking. It's not show up and shoot.
A lot of pressure too.
Yeah. But it's not show up and shoot.
Yeah.
Like I have to live in that project for a couple weeks,
Yeah.
maybe even longer ahead of time. Like it's not a videographer position.
Yeah.
Not crapping on that job.
No,
at
it's just
all.
different. That's all. It's
like,
just different.
Those guys are hustlers and
They
they can
work
pick off
hard.
shots way quicker than I can.
Yeah.
It's just not the mental space that I
different,
occupy.
Yeah.
Because you want to, like, it's almost like at least for me starting out, it was, I want to just, like, people want me to do their thing. Like, yeah, I want to do it. But like you're saying, it is difficult when you get to a certain capacity where like it is actually detrimental to the project, let alone your own health. And I'm still battling that, transitioning out of what I was coming from, which is a lot of like volume based photography, videography work. But the work just gets better when you have when you're in the better mind state and like in a healthy state.
I definitely think so. And it's very difficult, I think, for people from a content perspective to be like, you only shot 7 days last month. And I'm like, just so you know, that's a lot in my world.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That's like, I wish I could shoot 7 days.
I was
every
going to
month.
ask actually, like, is there like an average of like how many shoots you're doing per month?
I would probably say 6 to 10
6 to 10.
is average per month. It'll waver because some jobs are more days, some are
Right.
less. But like I find if I tip over the 10,
Okay.
because in my mind, the way day rates are worked out, I feel like every day of shooting is 4 days of work. So if I'm shooting 10 days in a month, I'm doing 40 days of work in a third. Like I'm overextending myself past what is a lot of time. Because you think about like all the references you might pull, the Zoom meetings you have with production,
Yes.
like shooting.
Even post with colorists.
Yeah,
and all
shooting
that. Yeah.
one day isn't a day's work. You're
Yeah.
getting paid like a football player's getting paid.
Yeah.
Like you're getting paid not for 12 games a season.
Yeah.
or however, I don't know sports, however many they play. You're getting paid for the training in between, the press releases, like it's the entire package of what they're paying you for. They just wrap it up in like scout days and shoot days. There's a bunch of little other in between things that just like they don't go unaccounted for. It's like you kind of have to do those things.
I always say they pay for your mind.
Yeah, 100%. They occupy your brain space,
Yeah.
and that's worth a lot. That is what they should be paying you for.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
paying you because you own an RE or
Yeah.
you know that like what an M18 is capable of.
Yeah.
Anybody has access to that information.
Yes.
Anybody has access. Like they're paying you because you get to weigh in on things and have a perspective.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like I don't mind talking about lighting setups till we go blue in the face because
Yeah.
it's like you know what the toughest thing about a lighting setup is? Coming up with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not seeing one and you're like, of course. And it's like, yeah, of course, in hindsight.
In hindsight, exactly.
How'd you
Thank
create
you.
that? Like, how'd
I've
you come to
always
that point?
Would you have put the camera in the same
Man.
corner? Would you have, like, because once you make that first step, you're already on a different path.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
I've always said that. Like I know we said it off camera, but I've always said it. It's like when someone looks at my breakdown and said, "Man, Daniel giving you all your secrets away. You should charge for that."
Oh, no,
I'm
man,
like,
I watched the athletics one you did.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to use the CRLS panels more. I love it.
love
Just a
those
600 bounced in. I was like, this looks great.
yeah, I love that.
And then I
thing.
was doing a job and I like had a bunch of like flickering tube stuff because I was
Yeah.
like, looked good in Danny's thing. I'm just going to like flicker this tube
Wow.
for no reason.
I'm actually honored in that. Thank you. I
No,
appreciate
like
that.
there is still stuff to be
There's
gleaned
value,
from
yes.
like seeing BTS and seeing it. Like you can get inspired,
Yeah.
but don't think that like just because you do the setup, it's gonna
Yeah,
look like
that is
that.
gonna look like that.
That
Exactly.
ain't like I was like, I think you know the spot I'm talking about, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
boxing one.
Yes,
or,
yeah, yeah.
So there was like this newspaper background or picture background. Great textures.
Yeah.
Do that same thing on a white drywall. The tube
And
floods everywhere. Shots
terrible.
toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no one likes to talk. You might have said something about the texture.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But like stuff like that, like you made the right choice to be like, this is a good texture. We should point the camera here because it's not going to like hose our lighting. We don't have to flag off a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But like that's an important pattern to recognize when you're setting up a shot.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what some people might have taken away with that is, so if I bounce a 600 into like a diffusion,
It's going to look like
force,
that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And it's like
there's so much more to
But again,
it.
it's also conceptualizing
and it's like
it.
seeing those reflections off like a
Yes.
kind of like, if I'm looking down here, it's polished concrete floor. I'm like, let's use that somehow.
Yeah.
That's doubling up your lighting. Like, what do you think a wet down is?
Yeah.
It's just doubling up your work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
all it is like, hey, you know, we have all these great things up here. Let's get them down here.
And that's so fascinating because like I've
Or like if you introduce mirrors into scenes.
Yes.
That's just another way.
added depth.
Yeah.
to
So there's
mirrors,
one
yeah.
dolly shot in the Medical Hall of Fame one where, and it barely made the edit, but like where the guy swoops in on the x-ray scene to the lady in the hospital bed.
Yes.
There's a mirror just off camera reflecting his face. It's like little things that add another reflection.
Yeah.
Another, like if you don't have like all the practicals in the world, start bringing in mirrors or start moving glass and doors around that
Yeah.
reflect your practicals, because that'll be another hot spot that like in your waveform is just like boom, boom. I'm creating points of interest.
Looking
I'm,
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Looking nice.
Very interesting because I think that's really fascinating. First of all, I appreciate you actually watching my stuff. That's
For
that's
sure,
really
man.
cool. But like the perspective I've always taken with breakdowns is don't just look at like what they're doing. Don't just think, oh, 600D in a softbox looks like that. You know, think about like the way I break down your work, like the Medical Hall of Fame. When I watch it, I'm looking at the techniques that you do, but not just the techniques that you're pulling off, but why.
Yeah.
Why these techniques according to the story that I've just seen. That's why I watch it 4 or 5 times, because I'm looking back. I'm like, okay, now I've seen the story. Now I understand what's going on here. I can see why he's adding in this and why he has a punch of this and why he's maybe reductive lighting in this situation.
A lot of times I'm adding things because the shot sucks.
Yeah, that is true too. Yes. This makes it look prettier if you put a light over there.
I couldn't tell you the number of times in that spot where
Yeah.
like the final shot in that ad is literally us dolling back in a lobby. And I'm like, this blows. So like I had like a flagged off light that I was like, okay, you're going to go like this. Halfway through the shot, you're going to take the flag away and it's going to produce a flare. And then you're going to go like this because it just adds a point of interest.
Wow.
And I did that maybe like 4 times in the spot. There's the shot where like, I don't know, the science fair, we had an evoke on the back left. I was just like, the shot sucks. Let's just get a flare in it. It'll make it better.
Flare it up and make it look pretty.
Flare in and out.
Flare, yeah.
Gives nice edit points. Like, is
Yeah.
it cheap? Yes.
Interesting.
But it worked. Like,
Yeah.
so are Sour Patch Kids and they're delicious.
I like that analogy, to be honest. That's good.
That's very interesting. Now let's segue back to mentality. I know we got right back to breaking things down. I think I could talk to you all day, but because a lot of similarities, a lot of things that you say, it's the same approach with me.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, you know, like I really resonate with what you do. So we can riff for like 5 hours, but
Yeah.
I wanted to really get to this point because the whole point of this podcast is to connect people, right? And I want people, especially who are newer in this, who might see your work and be intimidated. I mean, I can imagine that if I was 3 years ago, I was so much shittier 3 years ago. Now, if I saw your profile, I'd be like, he's too good. I won't be able to talk to him. He's not going to answer me or whatever. So I want to give this opportunity for you to just give some advice to the younger people, the people who are coming up. What kind of advice can you give them?
Always review your work. Like if you shoot something, I don't care if it's an interview, if it's a run and gun B-roll, if it's a live event, go through DaVinci, spend 1 to 2 hours, put on your favorite album, listen to a podcast, and just like scroll through the footage. Find the shots you like. Start analyzing, why do I like this shot? Is it because it's a Far Side key? Is there this like crazy lighting show that the DJ did? Like start analyzing what you like, and then you'll find out over time that like if I know the patterns of what I like, then I can get there quicker and more of my shots will become my favorite and less shots will become my least favorite.
Yeah.
The other thing is that like there isn't really a shortcut to getting there quicker.
Yeah.
Like it really is like is it Maxwellian? Who says the 10,000 hours?
Who's
Maxwell?
I forget the Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
The dude that said, let's say 10,000 hours to be great at something.
Yeah.
Gladwell, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, 10,000 hours to become a pro at something. It is really true. If you think about any other skill in your life, like if you play music, if you play soccer, like if you do something that like, think of it like working out. If I do 3 push-ups, am I done?
Yeah.
Am I good now? Yeah. I saw you doing them. I did them. And they're like, but your body does look a little different than mine.
That's a good way of putting
I
it.
have the posture of an earthworm, and you look like The Rock.
I've actually heard it takes, for cinematographers, it takes 10 years.
Sure, and I mean, like, if you break it down to like number of hours, that might work out. But like, it is a process. There's always things you can be doing to improve. But like, if you think you're gonna get to your voice quicker, just don't beat yourself up. If someone might get there in 7 years, someone might get there in 5, someone might get there in 12. The point is, you want to find your voice, and I don't have a hack to get there. I can tell you how to get to the patterns quicker, but finding your voice is like something you're always discovering.
Yeah.
So don't beat yourself up. Like, but also don't just pass off the footage and be like, I did a really good job today. Did you? Because like there's a certain adrenaline running through your veins on shoots that like the footage always looks better on set. Like you're always more stoked and you're like, we crushed it today. And then you get it in, you're like, it's a little shakier than I thought it was.
I think it's out of focus. Sorry.
Are those gimbal bumps there on the day? We should get a 1% warp.
I sometimes have the opposite.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna say. Sometimes I have the opposite. Like I go in, and I think I said it's shit, and then I bring it in, and I'm like, this color really well. And I look at the color, and I'm like starting to do things. I'm like, I think I fixed a bad shot.
That's
like,
good.
Yeah, but
I'm usually pretty jazzed on set, and then it's like it's always diminishing returns, and then the edit and the sound design bring it back to where I felt on set. I think it's because I'm thinking about
all the other pieces together.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and it's like it depends where you're at in your career. Like, get a base kit of lighting if you can afford it. It's tough for me to say don't worry about the camera because you're going to. I mean, I did. Yeah. That's kind of part of the process, unfortunately. Yeah. I can tell you don't care about the camera, but I think you're supposed to care about the camera for a couple years. Like, unfortunately, I think that's part of the process. So like do all the research, figure out the difference between a Komodo and a Pontiac 6K. And like, 'cause I lived in that world. Like do it.
Yeah.
Cause one day you won't have to use it at all. And you can be on set and be like, what camera is this? I've never used it before. Can you just set it to 800, white balance 4300, throw some zebras and a waveform on? Yeah. Like that's how I talk with cameras I don't know anymore.
Wow.
Like
that's very interesting.
You set it up. Yeah. I know I'm just basing all my settings off Ari. And it's like, set it to this. Yeah. And it's like, you tell me if that's like bad for this camera. Yeah. But like 800, I know my white balance is by eye.
Funny. You know, I'm kind of guilty of that too. When Anthony got the C500, it wasn't because I told him to get the C500. It's because he wanted the C500. And when he first got it, I was like, I have no idea what this does, but let's shoot on it. And I was like, just tell me what the native ISO is, and I'll work around that.
And then go around that. Give me a waveform and some zebras.
Does this have false color? Can we make a false color a quick button, please, so I can quickly see it? You know,
and like I know my white balances, so it's like if the monitor is skewing a little too blue, yellow, magenta, green, it's like let's just keep the white balance. Like this is what I would normally. I think it might be this monitor.
Yeah.
And it's like also pretty easy fix in post.
Exactly.
Within like 1,500 points.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. But thank you, Nick, so much for coming, man. Like I said, we could probably chat forever, man. Like so many things you said was like, I want to say something, but we unfortunately ran out of time. But
no, thanks for having me, guys. And it's been a pleasure. But like these are important things to listen to. But like getting out there and actually doing it is the second. Like I could listen to all day someone teach me how to skate. Until I lace up, I'm not really learning anything.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But it's good to get that insight coming from you. Like when people wonder these things, and it's almost like the shortcut. It's like get right into the mind of somebody.
It might shave a couple years off.
Exactly.
It might. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a week.
Yeah, I'll have to know when there will be some new, some new young gun that'll overtake me in 3 years. I'll be like, I remember when Nik Pilecki was on a podcast. I'm like, all right, the hacks did work for you, I guess. Because your stuff looks a lot better.
Just don't worry about lenses or camera and just show up. Yeah.
So that's my flare trick that he's using. All right.
Yeah.
All All right, man. I appreciate it, man.
No, thanks, guys.
Cool.